Yes. Hey, it's John and Mike from Brew-Studios.com. So tonight we're over here in Studio A, sampling some beer, some decent beer. Not the best beer, but it's good beer.
Decent. I think it's great.
Actually, it's not bad. But the question that I have is, if you're brewing a lot of beer, you're experimenting with recipes, you're trying to become a better brewer. The only way to do that is to brew. But sometimes you might make a dud, or maybe you make something that didn't ferment the right way, or you brew something, you taste it and go, okay, I understand what I did there, now I want to brew the next thing. But eventually you've got a backlog of beer that you're not drinking fast enough to brew more beer. I mean, I'm blessed, I have 9 kegs, but my kegerator will only hold 4 kegs, so I'm trying to cycle them out. Or sometimes you've got a beer you just had for a long time because you're not drinking or whatever. So the question is, what do you do with old beer, or beer that you're not really happy with, or beer that's definitely bad? Are you willing to throw it out? Do you give it to friends? What do you do? I'll pass that over to you.
Okay, first things first. I actually wrote a post about this sometime last year. I had the great beer purge of 2013.
Right.
Because I was in the same dilemma. I had all this beer. I was not happy with it. Things just weren't great. It was drinkable, but not to my level of what I think was worth sharing. I don't know. It was almost cathartic to just pour it all down the sink. So like, okay, you know what? This is fine. We learned a lot from all this, but it's not for anybody, not for me, not for my friends, not for my coworkers.
Yeah.
Pouring it all down the sink. So, and I feel okay with that. I know that, you're wasting beer and stuff, but if no one is going to enjoy it, or at least you're not going to feel some sense of pride sharing it with others, who cares, I mean, the whole part of the hobby, to me, is sometimes, starting off, it's all about brewing something you can drink and have a good time with, but once you get into it a few years, it's all about trying to make something that is spectacular. I know I throw in the post when we write about recipes or just brewing beer, how do you make excellent beer? It's fairly easy to make good beer. How do you make excellent beer? How do you make beer that you think compares, head on with something you can buy out of the local store down the street?
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you ever go into a brew session, or you're going to brew a recipe? Do you ever go into it thinking, do you go into every brew session thinking, I'm going to do this as best I can to make the best beer I can? Or are there some beers that you make that are more like, I'm going to make a very good beer that we can drink? Like the focus of this brew session is to make some drinkable beer that's still going to be good quality, but it's not necessarily my best effort.
Right. I think when I'm trying out something new, because I don't have enough information to guide myself to say I'm going to make something excellent.
Yeah.
For instance, like my first foray into making a sour beer, I didn't. Did I have all the quality control measures that I usually have in place? No. But at the same time, I felt like, this is a style that if I get some wild fermentation in there, it's probably going to be okay.
That's an interesting point. Sometimes if you're going to dive into a new style, totally new style, you can research recipes, you look in a couple of really popular recipe books and say, okay, this recipe is a perfect example of the style supposedly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to brew it and just see what I think of it.
Yeah.
And how it comes out is how it comes out. It's not necessarily going to be the best thing, because then you're going to modify it from there. Maybe the next effort is going to be a higher level of carefulness or focus.
But I think, if you're making a beer for that's going to be drunk quickly, like if you're having a party the next month and you make a whole bunch and you're hoping that this is just going to all go away very quickly. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't have this mentality of it's got to be pristine and I got to work really hard to make it. Sometimes, as you say, we're just brewing beer here.
We're just brewing beer,
and it's fun.
Yeah.
So I think great purge. I think I can separate myself from saying, oh my, I'm wasting all this beer. I can pour it down the sink because I know I have plans to make better beer in the very near future, so that's fine. The other great tip, just to give you my 2 cents, coworkers. I always bring beer, and I'm like, because usually, you can pass it off to people who, their beer palates may not be as refined as your good friends that you drink with, especially the ones that we have that know and have kind of grown with us in our beer passions. And also that professional relationship, they're not going to say to your face, this absolutely stinks.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing it in, but I'm not drinking any more of this. So that's people who I work with, if they watch this, I've always brought good stuff in. You know this. You're very happy with what I've brought in. But again, the stuff I'm pouring down the sink, I'm probably not going to share with anybody anyway. So it is always good stuff. But I usually have, if I have a plethora of good stuff and I want to make some room for the new stuff I want to brew, it's always good to bring in because it will go. It will go. People will always want an excuse to drink at work. That's for sure.
I think for me, when I brew, there's two issues that come up with beer that isn't necessarily the best. Is one, I feel like sometimes what I worry is that people's perception of homebrewed beer is that it's going to be less than commercial beer.
Yes.
Right? So if you present people with beer that is nothing but stellar, I fear that you potentially damage or solidify a negative opinion of homebrewing.
Agreed.
So I'm always worried about sharing beer that I'm not 100% excited about.
Yeah.
Even if I give beer that I'm really excited about to somebody and they don't like it, that's fine. But if I give somebody beer that I'm not excited about, they probably can cue in on that, and then they taste it and go, "Oh, that's nice, but this must be what homebrew's all about." Right?
For me, it's always B+ or better.
Right.
B+ or better.
Sure. And so then the other big issue that I have with beer is that I'm always brewing to try to make the recipe I'm working on now better, the next version. So the problem that I have with brewing beer, is that I brew 5-gallon batch of beer, and I know what the goal was, and then I get it carbonated and cleared up and on draft. I pour that first pint, and in the first few sips of that very first pint, I go, okay, I understand what I did there.
Yeah.
Then I'm ready to brew the next beer, and I'm done with that beer.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the next beer. Now I've got 5 gallons minus 1 pint that sort of sits there, and those people come by and drink some, or we shoot videos and drink some beer.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of one of those things that I really enjoy, that creative process, the iterative process of brewing different recipes, the core 4 or 5 recipes that I'm most interested in right now. And once I taste it, I'm almost done with it. But those are the beers that I do need to bring to work, or I do need to unload at a party or stuff like that. And being a draft beer guy, it's not quite as easy to bring the beer somewhere unless I want a bottle, or do growlers.
Yeah.
So it's always tough to kind of get rid of beer. But so the main point of this whole discussion is I'm also not afraid to say, you know what, it's time to dump this beer because I either need more room or this beer just didn't work out the way I wanted, or I learned what I needed to learn from this beer.
Yeah.
It's time to move on.
Yeah.
I got a couple saisons that off camera we're probably going to taste later that I'm not happy with, and I think I need to make keg space, and those might have to go out into the grass. My grass loves beer. It drinks a lot of beer. So.
Didn't we taste those saisons on camera?
We did taste them on camera, and they were fine, but I don't know.
Now they're not so good.
They're going someplace weird. I don't know. Maybe we should taste them back on camera. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe. No, we're not.
No, okay.
Because you're going to pour them on your lawn, and your lawn's going to be happy.
Yeah. So.
All right. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, so that's the deal. Let us know what your comments are. What do you do with beer that you're not happy with, or beer that's gone bad, or whatever?
Get used to purging it. That's what I say.
Do you muscle it down, just drink it no matter what? I mean, you've made an investment. You might as well put it down there.
Someone's going to drink it.
But good luck with your brewing. Keep watching videos. Cheers. Brew on.